If you told me the NFL has the best stadiums in the world, I wouldn't argue with you. Even the worst ones are still pretty good, but I'm going to attempt to rank them all. As always, this is going to be completely subjective, so please do let me know in the comments why I'm wrong. You may also call me an idiot. It's probably fair, to be honest. Okay, here are the NFL stadiums ranked. FedEx Field. By all accounts, you're better off FedExing yourself and some food into the stadium, rather than paying the exorbitant prices for parking, tickets and concessions within the venue. You'll still be in a shoddy stadium, however, so it's probably not worth a day and a half crammed into a box with minimum oxygen. TIAA Bank Field. Not only does it have an awkward name, but it's just a very dated stadium and not in a charming way. It doesn't belong in the world's richest sports league. I do have to give them bonus points for the swimming pools, but they are benefiting very few spectators.
It's not true. It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mom.
Stadium. Great film, not necessarily a great stadium. But there's not a whole lot wrong with it. It's just getting on a bit, and has more in common with a mid-level college stadium than an elite NFL stadium. Part of the reason they are considering building a new one. Bank of America Stadium. It has a grandiose, one-of-a-kind exterior. You just don't see many black facades. But it hasn't got all that much else that really sets it apart. It looks plain and simple on the inside. But it does have that skyscraper backdrop going for it, I suppose. Caesars Superdome. This is undoubtedly an impressive building. Not only the grandeur of it, but the fact that it survived a horrific hurricane as well. However, it sort of feels like they're playing arena football in here. An indoor stadium is okay, I guess, but one with an opaque roof just ain't right. Ford Field. I do really like it when they incorporate a pre-existing building into a stadium, as they've done here. But once more, it's the opaque roof that I'm not a fan of. There are some windows, but it's not enough. It is still a solid stadium. First Energy Stadium. The lakeside location seems serene, but there's an airport right there, and the cold air blowing off the lake can make the stadium an uncomfortable place to be. The bright orange color scheme certainly stands out, but other than that, it's run-of-the-mill. M&T Bank Stadium. Nothing to do with the stadium, but I do like that they're called the Ravens, as a subtle tribute to former Baltimore resident Edgar Allan Poe, who was perhaps the greatest running back the game has ever seen. As for the stadium itself, well, it's in pretty good condition after a renovation a few years back, but it's not one of my favorites aesthetically speaking. Gillette Stadium. It's currently undergoing some renovations, so it's hard to judge exactly where it stands. But part of the renovation was destroying the lighthouse, so that kinda sucks. That was its USP. It was never gonna crack the top 10 or anything anyway. Nissan Stadium. It's in a nice spot just across the river from the city centre, and there's nothing particularly wrong with the stadium, but I just think it lacks in the way of character. It's an off-the-shelf stadium, I guess you could say. These little houses are cool though. Hard Rock Stadium. I've never encountered a soft rock before. Wouldn't that just be a clump of dirt? Anyway, I think the huge and much needed roof canopy can make this stadium seem more impressive than it actually is. It did after all evolve from a very simple stadium, but it certainly looks good. Paul Brown Stadium. Paul Brown has both a stadium and a team named after it in different parts of Ohio, both of which aren't exactly showered with praise, but I actually quite like Paul Brown Stadium. The design has a certain flow to it, and that video board is giving me Jetsons vibes. Raymond James Stadium. This is just a red version of Nissan Stadium, with a more angular seating arrangement and of course a pirate ship. Obviously it has to be higher ranked because of that. Pirate ships improve upon everything. Yes, even Somalia. It helped their fledgling film industry. NRG Stadium. Do you see what they did there with the letters that sound like a word when said individually? I bet that wasn't easy to come up with. Oh, see, I can do it too. I think it has one of the more boring exteriors going round, but on the inside, looks alright. There are some rather large video boards, but they're nearly as high as the roof. So those sitting lower down will end up with a sore neck. MetLife Stadium. Considering the stadium is shared by two teams in the country's biggest city, you'd expect something a little bit more impressive. The neutral colour scheme, as well as the fact that it's completely symmetrical, leaves it looking a tad dull, but the amenities are top notch, I guess. It's alright. Levi's Stadium. Despite having only opened under a decade ago and costing well over $1 billion, it's just not all that impressive, particularly that exterior, but I don't think it's as bad as some people say. Perhaps it's just that 49ers fans were expecting a lot more. Bonus points for the rooftop kale. Soldier Field. This seems to be one of the most hated stadiums in the league. However, I'm slightly unusual in that I like stadiums that are slightly unusual. It just looks cool in my eyes. It does, however, have the smallest capacity in the league, yet can also get very crowded in places. And of course, lake plus winter equals cold. Lincoln Financial Field. This one does share some similarities with Levi's Stadium, but it just looks badass by comparison. I think it's a combination of the interesting facade and those little roofs up there. Being completely surrounded by parking and a highway or two isn't the best setting, but you've got to get here somehow. Empower Field at Mile High. As the name suggests, this stadium is high AF, but that's not the reason that it's ranked so highly. It's mainly due to the design of the seating bowl itself. It has the curves of a 1960s European sports car. Just the 1 horsepower though, as you can see, so it's more of an Albanian mini truck thing in that respect. State Farm Stadium. The fact that early season temperatures can reach ridiculous highs and yet the spectators can sit and enjoy the game in comfort is really this stadium's crowning achievement. But a close second is that they went to the extra effort to maintain a natural grass field by putting it on wheels. It is a little on the small side. Arrowhead Stadium is a venue that, despite its age, still looks somewhat modern. Of course, the renovations over the years are a big part of that, but I like that they weren't afraid to be a little different instead of the same old bowl-like stadium. Obviously, being the loudest stadium is also a plus, but that has more to do with the fans themselves. Acrisure Stadium. It is no longer Heinz Field, just in case you have yet to catch up. But those bright yellow seats and the spectacular view from them remains the same, of course. Personally, I think the most impressive thing about this stadium is how it recovered from being completely decimated during a Gotham Rogues game about a decade ago. AT&T Stadium. Contrary to their rough and ready nickname, the Cowboys have themselves an opulent palace to call home, with just about every luxury you could want. It's climate controlled, the video boards are huge, and a third thing. I feel particularly strongly about the third thing. Compared to stadiums built in recent years, it's actually quite a toned down design. Lumen Field has a bit of everything going for it. It's a design fit for the local climate with those big roofs sheltering a good portion of the spectators. But they also reverberate the sound of one of the loudest crowds in the league. There's plenty of uniqueness here, particularly at the northern end, and there's also a bit of a skyline backdrop. Lucas Oil Stadium. They call Indiana a flyover state, but if you like your sports venues, particularly those with a marvelous brick exterior, you should stop here along the way. If you're already in the air when watching this video, just go to the cockpit and tell the pilot to land in Indianapolis, if he has the audacity to say no. Your body, a taser doesn't hurt anyway. Like Ford Field, it has a bit of an industrial feel to it, but it has the luxury of a retractable roof and windows with a downtown view. Allegiant Stadium. A lot of people would have put this stadium at number 1, and I can understand why. But just personally, it looks a tad, well, we already know it looks like a Roomba. But I still think it's a fantastic stadium, and the Al Davis Memorial Torch in front of the window there is one of the coolest features at any stadium in the world. Mercedes-Benz Stadium. It really is the Mercedes-Benz of stadiums. Showy, yet practical. Metallic, yet there's also a sunroof. The most impressive roof in the NFL in my opinion. They probably spent tens of millions more than they needed to just to be unique. There is almost too much going on in here. It's a very busy design, but I love it. Lambeau Field. I could have put this at number 1 to appease the masses. It obviously has the history, it has a stunning brick exterior, but most of the capacity comes from backless metal benches. They don't want to replace them with chairback seats because it will reduce the capacity significantly, so I can understand it. Other than that though, the stadium is remarkable, as is the fact that such a small city can support an NFL team. I still think I may have cheesed off the people of Wisconsin. US Bank Stadium. Like I alluded to earlier, I do certainly prefer a fresh-aired stadium, but I can understand their choice given that the weather here can occasionally slip down to 0 Fahrenheit, and the translucent ETFE, or plastic, roof not only lets in the light, but you can see the sky in all its glory. It's especially spectacular during the weather event that Minneapolis is known for, Purple Rain. SoFi Stadium. You see, I'm a bit of a contrarian by nature, and this is the most expensive stadium in the world. I don't want it to be the best, but it kinda is. Its exterior is elegant, its interior is flashy, it has an incredible video board, it has a roof but you can still feel the breeze. It can expand to become the biggest stadium in the league. How can I deny it the number 1 spot? And that's it for today's video. Did you agree with this list? Statistically speaking, that is highly unlikely. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching, have a good one.